Hey, I'm Zach Fleet.
I'm Evan Freed filming us right now.
This is our operant conditioning study called Little Andrew. What we're going to be doing is every day in class at a variable interval schedule of reinforcement, we'll be clicking a pencil 3 times right behind his neck, and we'll be poking him right after that. And what we're going to hope for in this experiment is that after a while, we're going to be poking him 3 times, and he'll turn around. All right, let's go. So little Andrew will be getting a negative secondary reinforcement. This is because little Andrew isn't normally scared of a pencil clicking. This project was ethical because it was done on a friend. In a normal setting on a random person, this could be considered unethical because it would be unusual punishment for relevant reasons.
Deza was not aware he was being filmed during this process.
You're going to finish your college applications, but you're not listening to them because you're thinking, oh, I'm excited for the Tigers game tonight, or whatever else. I don't know what you think about. So, looking at that, echoic would be what something sounds, iconic is what you see. And those are momentary, sensory, immediate types of memory. The next type is, Colin, do you know it? Oh, you need a lecture probably, huh?
Yeah.
You want one or you want to just sit there?
Very good.
6 items, so it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is what your short-term memory is.
Like for what period of time?
30 seconds. Short-term memory is 30 seconds. Great. The way that I always test my short-term memory is whenever I'm grading a test or something, I look at, again, like I'll memorize A, C, D, E, A, and then I'll grade all of those, just like that. And sometimes I can increase it, like by the end I'm memorizing, 10 letters together, and that's why I grade tests fairly quickly, because I'll chunk that information in my short-term memory. And I don't remember what those ones are after 30 seconds, because I've moved on to the next one, but for those 30 seconds, it works really well. So I'm always testing my short-term memory. We're trying to improve it too. So 30 seconds is a short, which is working memory. So you gotta work, right, with that memory, and work short-term memory, STM, and working memory. Short-term memory, I think you're definitely onto it, because short-term memory is when you're focused. Okay, write down all the numbers you remember. Important. No. Not nice. Okay. Anybody else remember? You get extra credit, and there's a double positive reinforcement. Chops, you get double positive reinforcement because you don't have to do homework over the weekend. And it's some people's birthday weekend. Exactly. And you get extra credit. So double positive reinforcement. Are you a maybe?
Yeah, maybe. And I want to know how much extra credit.
She doesn't know. It's enough of an extrinsic reinforcement.
Here you will see Andrew Deza pull out 2 pencils of his own to compete with my pencil, and we'll see what happens.
It's called the Freeman's principle. It has to be worthwhile enough, it has to be large enough for you to demonstrate the behavior. So, right now we've had, I don't know how many points we've had, but most of my assignments are, 5, 10, 15. I mean, the video is worth 20 points. I give you 5 points for going early. So that's a 25% bump in the video.
Right here, Andrew decides to go on the offensive and take matters into his own hands. Luckily, I dodged it right there, so that was good.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry,
I do tonight.
Anybody else on the Navy list now?
No, not even.
No, not even. Okay.
That's what I said. I said let's finish.
There we go. There's the motivation. Let's. Yeah, the let's.
Whatever.
Our plan for today, we're going to finish some concepts, well, not finish, we're going to continue some concepts in memory. So, there's a yeah, not too much. You get to celebrate.
You think I can jump? I jumped out of school.
Isn't that 4 times? Let's hope I can fix that. No. Don't even say that.
Here I see if Diesel will respond to 3 clicks, and it doesn't work.
Did you watch us live? Maybe. Was it good?
Oh, you just saw it on like LimeWire.
I don't want to do anything.
What website?
These are taking.
Okay, here we go, folks. Retrieve that information, he never encodes it. So when we look at the idea of why people forget, the number one reason is encoding failure. Looking at
Deza right here, after hearing 3 clicks, prepares to be stabbed, and he is not stabbed, and it is confirmed that he connected the 3 clicks to being stabbed in the back of the neck. We predicted a 1 to 2 day acquisition period, and we were correct.
Storage system. So it's extremely effective. Remember, attention is selective, just like your parents tell you you have selective hearing. They're actually talking about your attention being selective. So we're only paying attention to a few things at once. And so if we're not paying enough attention, then we're not going to ever have that information enter our storage system. Ebbinghaus was a famous researcher, and what he did was he wanted to see
There was no consistency throughout our experiment, and right here you can see it's subject to instant extinction.
And then the next day the teacher asked you a question about something that was... Ebbinghaus wanted to say, why does this happen? And so what he did was he learned all of these nonsense syllables. So you learn this list of nonsense syllables, things like eb, lib, idge, nonsense syllables. Why would he learn
Yes, he did just hiss at me.
Something like on, at, the... Yeah, so these could be related, so you could use elaborative encoding. You can't relate these to anything. So it's all random nonsense syllables. So he learns this huge list, and then he waits a time period, and he has somebody else test him on it. At first, he remembers 60% of the list, right? So he gets a 60%, pretty good. A day later, he gets a 30%. It's a rapid decline. 3 days later, it's at around 25%. 30 days later, though, it's still at 20%. Why is that significant? Yes, Nick?
Well, firstly, isn't it kind of different, though, if he uses the same list? Because after he says it over a certain amount of times, he remembers the same things.
He has to... Oh, so you're saying the repetition?
Yeah, what if the list has to change for it to be accurate? Like,
well...
I just think it's kind of weird, like, because if you say it more than once, obviously you're going to, like...
Right, the repetition of it is helping to encode it. So yes, that does seem... like it would help him. So he still remembers 20% of it because maybe of the repetition, but why else is it significant? But he's not practicing it any other time. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to learn a list today. I'm not going to practice that. Left exploratorium because some of the stuff in the lecture...
A day later, it is clear that he's still subject to spontaneous recovery.
Thanks, Dan, on exploratorium. Then we'll do the 3 presentations in whatever time we have left. No, you're all good? Okay.
Here you can see Colin Lennox throwing Evan a pen to test for generalization.
Did it work? No?
It's Ben.
Would you like a pencil? Yeah, good start.
It is clear that generalization is present.
Deza does not play baseball.
Deza is also not on the track team.
Deza is not a woman, nor does he play tennis.
Must be turned into the main office prior to your first rehearsal. If you will be unable to follow, please contact Mrs. Erickson as soon as
Extinction.
possible. Thank you.
Okay. So
Here, Deza hisses at me again.
Misinformation effect or source amnesia, right?
Here there is more extinction, and it's clear there is no consistency.
On false eyewitness testimony. And what she does is she discredits, basically, eyewitnesses because she knows how malleable memory is. What does malleable mean? Changeable. So she knows that we can change people's memory. In our perception, our unconscious minds want to say somebody who sounds confident, they must be telling the truth, right? Because when we see people who don't seem confident, they're like, I think so, or I'm not sure, or they're more soft-spoken, we automatically perceive that person to be less accurate than somebody who comes up and they appear confident. If I was lecturing, I'm like, well, I think eyewitness testimony was about this, and I've heard some things, you probably wouldn't believe me, even though I would be just as accurate as I would be as if I'm standing up here being confident and articulate talking about things. The other thing is time of crime is often overestimated, and so something that's violent or something that's scary to you, you think it's taking longer than it actually is. So people's timelines are off, and then other people's alibis could come into play. And this one's huge. What is cross-racial identification? Whoa, why is all of this happening when people aren't good at identifying people outside of their own race? Yes?
I was watching this thing about this lady who had got raped, And while the man was raping her, she said that she looked at him, studied him so hard, and she knew every single feature or whatever. And then when it came up with the, what's the thing for that lineup?
Yep, the lineup.
The lineup, she picked the wrong man and sent the wrong man to jail for 20 years.
Wow. And because with that, for her, the trauma of going through that, even though she's, you know things to look at.
At this point,
Look,
it is
like,
verging
let's
on
say
unethical.
Somebody came into this room and, well, I don't even want to do those analogies, but let's say somebody came into a bank and they were robbing the bank. You're supposed to mark, and most stores have this. If you notice that as you're walking out of stores, there's a marker of how tall people are. So it's the height. So you're supposed to mark where people are in their height. And like Colin right now, I mean, markers. Remember, how to rob a bank. The biggest identifier is hair, right? So looking at somebody's hair, they change their hair. People don't look past that hair of how difficult.
Here he takes apart Con Lennox's pen. That was spontaneous recovery right there. Once again, no consistency.
There was shaping in this experiment. Whenever Andrew made a move towards turning around after hearing the noises, he received a softer poke, and our hope was that after a while, he would turn around all the way, realizing that he got poked because of the 3 clicks. Our successive approximations will be that every time Andrew makes an effort to almost turn around, he received a softer poke. This applied when he just turned his head to the side. He was still poked, but he also received a softer poke to reinforce his behavior of turning around, realizing that the closer he gets to turning around, the softer the poke he received is.